Welcome, everybody. This is SharePoint Dev Weekly, episode 41. We do not have a clapper with us because I'm calling from a hotel. And I forgot about bringing that with me. I'm calling from Germany. Waldek, you are calling from home.
Yes, I am.
Probably, because this goes live actually during the time of the Collaboration Summit. What happened?
Yeah, so I was on the way to the event, and basically for health reasons I had to cancel last minute. So I was like almost there, but then I was like, nope, sorry, no can do. So I'm here, I'm at home, cheering from the bench here.
Yeah.
Like sending my thoughts to you guys to break a leg or not break a leg. Don't break a leg.
Yeah.
Especially for you, where you jump on tables and don't wear shoes. Like don't break legs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a shame that I cannot be there, but yeah, things are the way they are.
Yeah, they are what they are, and it's always the health always first, and then family, and then whatever work and hobbies and all of that. So it has to start from the health, because otherwise you can't take care of your family or work. So
yeah, exactly. It's like the easy thing you take in a way for granted when it's there, and then when it's not, like you really easily see how dependable you are, because as you say, like if it's not there, you couldn't do anything else. So
sure.
no matter where you are, what kind of cool stuff you have, and the stuff you work on, if there is no health, none of that matters. So
yeah, that is
health
true.
first.
That's true. Unfortunately, you were not the only one who had to cancel in the Collaboration Summit as well. Those few other late cancellations, unfortunately, actually do health reasons as well. So, but it's only life. There's just you never know what's going to happen. So, yeah, and that could happen for anybody. So, but now you're missing out. That's pretty awesome, actually. Let me see if I can get the blur away.
No, it's blurred. Like I know exactly what it is, but it doesn't show. It's blurred.
Okay,
It's still blurred.
Blur for the second.
There is back. Yeah, so it's a C64 Mini. Die wieder was?
Yeah, it's in German.
Meister kaufen viele Computer.
Ein Computer, ja.
Ausgezeichnet.
Indeed. Let me flip the blur on again. Let's see if we can actually make this work. Yeah, so all of the speakers got a C64 computer, or for games. I think this has preloaded games in it or whatever. So
yeah, it's like Nintendo thing. I think the or old console, or not old, classic console.
Yeah, adults playing, obviously, of course. Why not? So
of course. Yeah, that's how we roll. I can totally imagine you on the plane, like, ma'am, can I plug this anywhere, because I want to be like playing games only.
No, not with that. No, yeah. And it's only 2.5 hours for me. It's finally over. So built SPC and now ECS, and it's only 2 days. And there's a cleaning lady coming in.
Yeah, you could have done the do not disturb.
Yeah, that's fine. So those things do happen. So that's fine. No, it's okay. So we get this recorded as well. So the person went away. Okay. Now. So yeah, what I was about to say. So the build in May, we have SPC last week, and then ECS this week. So it's been pretty busy. Just to be honest, I'm waiting to get back home. So it's only 2 days. So I'm flying home already on Wednesday evening, which is good. So
okay, cool.
Finally, some relaxation as well. So it's been a few more sessions to go. Actually, something to deliver still today after this recording, and then a few sessions tomorrow and day after. But yeah, that should be fine.
Right. So you're going to talk about the, I can imagine, intro to the dev platform, the dev experiences, as you typically do, being the front man of the engineering team responsible for that.
Yep. So it's actually the same kind of a session which we did in SPC, which was the dev keynote in SPC, which is around the enterprise development scenario, or the latest and greatest on SharePoint enterprise development, basically overview on what's happened, what's the latest on roadmap, and all of that. And
so being in Germany, talking about enterprise development in SharePoint, you will be talking about WSPs, right?
I think the world is changing, even in Germany. So, which is a good thing. So, there was we are executing already at the moment. There's 2 classes of which I'm actually part of as well. So there's the Getting Started with SharePoint Framework, which had like 40 people signed up. Apparently Europeans are already way beyond the Getting Started SharePoint Framework. And then there was a Office 365 SharePoint Developer Masterclass, which we had 150 people.
Wow, what a difference.
Yeah. So, and there was actually already questions related on premises and SharePoint 2019.
Of course.
Of course, we're in Germany, so that's
yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of a. It's one of those classical challenges which reminded me on how old the 2019 is even. So we talk about SharePoint 2019, which was released. When was it G8? It was G8 October last year, right? Something like that. Time flies.
I don't know.
So much, but it was.
Yeah.
From SharePoint Online Code back in January, February timeframe. So basically, whatever you have in SharePoint 2019, it's from that timeframe and those capabilities.
So it's a year and a half old already.
Exactly.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it proves the point, right?
50 new versions after that in SharePoint Online or something like that, because basically 1 week, there's always new stuff coming out.
Yeah. Yeah, and also in SPFX, right? How many new versions of SPFX do we have since then, since January, February 2018?
That was 1.4.x, basically.
Yeah, so we have 1.5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, yeah. And now we're going towards 1.9.
Yeah, that's coming hopefully relatively soon. So it is now on, what day is it actually? It is
Monday.
It is 27th of May, so hopefully within 2 weeks we'll have 1.9 coming out if we can get our building pipelines moving. That was one thing what we talked about actually in SPC as well. So we move into this monthly release cycles, which is a really good thing. So everybody is actually, we've been running with SharePoint Framework and releasing SharePoint Framework so much and so often, but it's also in so many versions. Now we're trying to get it more mature and kind of do monthly releases. And then if something missed the month timeline, hey, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's be released on next month. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I guess like these are interesting challenges that if I speak for myself, until I got to manage a product, I didn't really get like how does that work and why would you have predictable schedule and releases and how do you go around things? I was like typically in projects you build things are done, project closes and you ship and it's done.
Yep.
In product, you're never really done because there's always more work to do. There's always more hours or more work than hours in a day, and at some point you might get to the point where things don't work. They don't meet the quality bar you want them to meet, so they cannot ship. And then, well, it's not the end of the world, right?
Sure.
You will ship them eventually, but you want to be sure you want to have something in place that allows people basically to plan, to rely also on what they're doing, because oftentimes like they're working on a project and they want to be able to tell, I need to build this. Do I wait for something that is about to come, or do I build something myself because it's still too far ahead or not planned at all?
Yep.
Right, so it all helps towards adoption in the end.
Yeah, and then I think, well, right now we are not yet promising exact features on the monthly releases, but I think we can get there relatively soon as well. In the best case scenario, we would be able to say this feature, and we would have a public, let's say, roadmap and a kind of a assumption where it would be released. And if it's not released on that one, it's going to be postponed for the next version. That would actually be really optimal because then people would be able to see roughly when something is happening.
Yeah, and I guess like so if I compare that to the way we approach things at Renko, right? We have a list of things we're working on that is prioritized where the things that are currently in progress are on top. Yeah. Right? So when things are done, they just move off from the top and then the next thing on the list is being picked up on. And the same way as you guys, we cannot communicate any days because, as you say, we might hit the release, but the release might slip due to reason because maybe developers are ill or there is something else that requires immediate attention. So things might slip, but at least it will be the order. And if it's not this release, then it will be the next one.
Yep.
Right. So I think that would already help to have that public list of things that are in progress, how they are ordered. Like, well, what's coming next? What's coming then? And when? Well, on Tuesday. Just
on 8 Tuesday, which Tuesday?
8 Tuesday, exactly.
Exactly. So, and that is what it is. So, and but that's kind of having that kind of a cycle really helps on also the whole industry is moving more and more to the way we do work actually in Microsoft as well, which is the minimal viable products things, which means that then we're kind of always improving what we have and improving and having a train where half of the investments on the engineering investments will be on new features and half of the investments, whatever the average, will be on improving what we actually have. So, which is a really good thing as well. So we keep on then making the things more mature and making the things more efficient, performance, storage requirements for SPFX solutions, and all of that will get better. So. Which is a good thing. At least personally, I call myself. So I'm definitely not a perfectionist because I understand the limitations, but I'm an improvementist. So, which is a great thing nowadays in the industry and especially how we work in Microsoft, because it's all about improving what we have. So improving. And
there are always things to improve. Like you will never run out of things to improve, because the moment you ship things, they're all right because they are based on an idea. And I think there was somebody who said like that. No plan survives the engagement with the enemy in a way. So you have an idea, you ship it, you build things, ship it to market, give it to people, and they're like, oh yeah, but what if I want to do that? And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then you need to rev on your thing, because otherwise you would just be stuck spinning wheels trying to come up with this wonderful and 100% complete thing that would never be done.
Yeah.
Because the moment you talk, the moment you show it, there will be more opinions, and you would be going back, improving, and people would not be able, in the end, to use it at all, right? Yeah. So I guess that being improvementist, as you say, it makes sense. It makes sense because people have needs, and if you can meet their needs already, or even some of them, well, that adds the value already.
Yeah.
Right. So there is the benefit. Even in that already, even if it's not the 100% thing, even if maybe in some particular edge case, things do not really work the way you want them to. Like that, these are the things that you can iterate over time while you already solve people's needs.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything is better than nothing, right? Anything is better than nothing.
Yes, absolutely. And there's also another interesting thing another interesting approach to shipping the products that I heard of. And maybe you guys thought about it too, that you can do it in a way when things are done, they are shipped. So you don't wait a month. When things are done, they are shipped. And then from the marketing side, the marketing team decides when they want to have an announcement.
Yeah.
And the benefit of that is that the dev team doesn't wait for anything. When things are done, they are shipped, they move on to do the next thing. There is no big bang for, oh yeah, we have done these 5 things, let's integrate them into a release. But that one thing was already done a month ago, and the developer has moved now to another thing, and then there's an issue. So there's like all kinds of things you have to take into account. Yeah. Plus, the one thing that is really interesting to that as well is that if you ship things today, and then the marketing announcement is, let's say, in 3 weeks or a month, that gives you 3 weeks to gather the evidence and launch basically with a success story or case. Yeah. Is there a partner who uses that already? And then let's launch with that, as opposite to we have this new thing and now we have to wait for everybody to understand what it does and how it's used.
Yeah, absolutely. Makes perfect sense. And well, obviously there's multiple different ways of doing that as well, but yeah, absolutely makes sense. Now, cool. Should we go to the articles and we can talk about announcements in SPC? I think we have quite a lot of slides actually, quite a lot of content in the announcements, even though we don't have that many tabs open in the window. But
it's not about the number of tabs; it's about what's on them.
That is so true. Let me share my only screen and let me flip in this one. So you need to tell me when you can actually.
Yes, it's on.
And here, okay, now we're good, right?
Yes, Microsoft is putting the sexy into unsexy software. What is this about?
So this one is the Verge article, which is actually pretty cool. So a year ago, SharePoint Spaces, which was announced and first demoed in the SPC 2018, got to be mentioned in the Verge because that was a kind of a 3D and virtual, the virtual worlds and everything else, SharePoint Spaces demos, and the Verge thought about that to be really cool. And now this year, it's actually SharePoint. It's just the modern SharePoint, and SharePoint being sexy, which is actually pretty cool. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
But the video is actually really nice.
It is. It is, especially when you look into it, and then it's like, it moves away from what to be like in the past used to be, there's like straight lines, intranet, and really you could say corporate with the notion or the way we saw it back in the days, corporate being equal to dull.
Yeah.
Right now it's modern, it's contemporary, it's fresh, it looks good.
Yeah. Absolutely. Really cool stuff. Putting this one there so that people can actually reference that. Now, this is actually said in the context. Tom Warren is saying this in the context of the new Windows Terminal. No offense for Windows Terminal, but I don't quite understand how Windows Terminal is actually called. But hey, that's
it's transparent. It's glassy. It's like. Dude, like, what is wrong with you? Like, how can you? I mean, I am on Windows, so I don't get it. I either, but
I'm using Commander by myself, so I don't really use Windows Terminal. But this might mean that we're able to do Commander kind of things in the classic Windows Terminal. So it's getting
exactly, and I guess that is the point, right? Some companies are really strict about installing anything third party. So that brings the party is basically the same thing as with the new Edge.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Some companies require a first party or from Microsoft great experience. True. And the new Edge is exactly that. It's based on Chrome, but it's a Microsoft owned.
This is Edge. So.
And even now, it's even available on a Mac.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I installed it the other day. It works.
Yeah, I've been using that as my primary browser now for a few weeks, 3-4 weeks, whatever. So quite fast, actually moved on it. It's faster than Google Chrome because it's basically stripped down, no additional.
No ads.
No additional things.
No tracking.
Really cool. Anyway, so really cool stuff here. Let's move on the dev stuff. So this one was the blog post on. Let's say on Tuesday, 21st, I think that was Tuesday, when we started the SharePoint conference, so this went live on the morning. And this was really around the key kind of a coverage and mentioning the key pointers related on development announcements, which wasn't actually, we didn't really make them flashy, big announcements on the SharePoint dev side, but we rather iterated on the messaging, which we've been doing related on 1.8 and the other elements. So if people have been joining on our community calls, they are absolutely aware of the fact that we have application pages, Microsoft Teams tabs, which are now G8 as part of the 1.8. We also talked about in the blog post, talk about the provisioning experiences. So this was really cool. The online provisioning services it's still in preview, but it's available, and we're improving that significantly. And even on the SharePoint Patterns and Practices provisioning engine, you are able to actually provision now also Microsoft Teams. So you can actually create a really cool tenant template with multi-site collections, hub site configurations, and Teams tabs and tabs pointed back to the SharePoint. So now you're able to then stamp those to the individual tenants. So
awesome.
Really. And we had a really interesting discussions related on provisioning service future in SPC, but I can't disclose any of that now. Just a teaser there. New API file developer experiences, Craft Toolkit mentioned, Windows Community Toolkit. We're looking into also getting finally to see some .NET Standard out. It wasn't announced yet, it wasn't demoed yet, but it's being worked on. It's a bummer that it's taken too long to get it out, and really the key challenge what we're having with that one is the impact of that to our built systems rather than actually making it out. So it's not the fact that it's getting a CSOM in the .NET Standard format. That's a snap of our fingers. Now, aligning our build tooling and everything else and automation on that, that's a separate topic.
Well, so maybe that is an interesting thing, right? Because we talked in the past, like it was brought up on a few occasions, like why wouldn't you open source CSOM? It's like, yeah, because it's auto-generated from server side as I do it. It's like, okay. But now that the build part might be an issue, maybe that would be actually made sense to extract that, because like I can imagine that from server-side OM you generate code and that code needs to be built, right? And then it will be built towards .NET Core. So if that part is an issue, put it in open source.
Well, it's
on GitHub.
How would you then compile that? Because we are compiling like
Azure DevOps.
But what's the value of doing that? Because now we generate the assembly automatically from the server-side code. So what is the open source part of the code?
Well, you don't generate assembly from assembly. I can imagine from one code, you get the other code, you compile the code, you get assembly.
Sure.
So if compilation is a bottleneck, we don't need to solve anything.
It's the automatic internal processes.
Gotcha.
So
gotcha. Misunderstood it there. Okay.
Right thing. Anyway,
it's coming on a Tuesday.
A Tuesday, yes. We'll see which Tuesday, but a Tuesday.
Exactly.
And then lightweight component is coming out on GA in 1.9. We'll talk about some of this stuff when we get to the roadmap slides. Now, there was a good article also from Microsoft Craft site, which is actually collecting all of the Microsoft Craft sessions from Microsoft Build. So Build was 3 weeks ago. It's been 2 weeks ago, whatever.
Yep.
And there was quite a few Microsoft Craft sessions there. The SharePoint, there was actually only one SharePoint session because the SharePoint had SPC then coming up on the following week. So that's why we didn't have that much present in Build. Good list of things. And by the way, you definitely, there's the keynotes, really cool stuff. Rajesh is showing. Rajesh is basically the director below reports to Satya, but in my management chain. So Rajesh owns Office 365 and Microsoft 365. So really cool stuff on emails as well. Good. And then a few community articles. So this one is 2 weeks old because we recorded the previous one on slightly earlier because of the SPC, but this is from Cameron. Cameron had a really nice top 6 Fiddler tips for developers, and this is really around how do we actually use the Fiddler to get more information about what's happening within the browser or in the traffic or in the network traffic versus just seeing what's going from the browser, right?
Yes.
Kind of. But it's basically there's 6 tips on showing how you can replay, how you can manipulate, how you can execute stuff, and then that helps you to do testing more efficiently, most likely. Really cool stuff. This one was from Mark V. Anderson, SharePoint People Search, right from the Intranet homepage. This is actually pretty awkward, to be honest. So it took me a while to actually figure out what am I actually reading here. But if you use the search box and you try to search anything like Mark in this case, the results are missing people search, which is like, why? Why is it missing? So if you use out of the box people search text box, but if you go to the search directly, then you actually have the people tap in the search results as well. And basically, Mark is just pointing out here that you can absolutely get a URL which is pointing to the _layout15 search ASPX/people, and that will then be showing you the results or giving you the people search experience. So relatively simple thing. It's all about obviously adding link to the right location and right URL, but it's actually slightly awkward. Why do we need to do this? But hey, things are what they are, right?
Yeah, it almost seems like one of the things that you can then really expect to be fixed over time, especially with the Microsoft search around the corner now, or now even in GA. I think that will be already addressed in there.
Yep, absolutely.
Like you would expect it to be there.
Yep. Yes, indeed. Cool. Moving on things. This is from David Ramalho. He's kind of how would I put this? He's the IT bro kind of guy for SPFX. So he's operating of this stuff. But this is a good kind of a reminder on the how to allow external users to access custom solutions on SharePoint. Really the challenge by default is that the external users do not have permissions to execute the client-side component assets in the app catalog.
Well, that was actually, and that's not only for externals, right? Because to be honest, like the other day, there was back already. I was at a customer who ran a 2019 farm on-prem, and they had exactly the same thing, right? They created a bunch of sites to experiment with, and they couldn't access the apps. Like, why not? Well, it turns out because in order to see anything SPFX on a page, everybody in the whole company has to have read access to catalog because it's client-side scripts that get pulled in from that site on runtime.
Yep.
But it's something that that was never the issue or never the case in the past, but now they do need that.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a good reminder how it actually works and getting access.
Absolutely.
And it makes perfect sense when you think about how things are actually working, because the actual JavaScript assets and component and manifests and everything else are actually stored in the app catalog site collection. So the users, to be able to show the information for the users, they need to have access there. So we're able to render what's being on the page. So,
but with these investments going on, like you would almost accept that A, when you get a tenant, there is a catalog, and B, it's already available to everybody, because otherwise.
Yes. That is absolutely true. So we're looking into having, first of all, an API for creating site collection. So you can programmatically create that and make sure that it's then properly defined. But there was a long debate internally on should we actually create an app catalog for every single tenant, or should we create that on demand using an API as needed? And the conclusion was actually on demand with an API, as long as there's an API. For now, there isn't, but we'll implement the API.
Yeah. Do that first. Create an API first.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we can debate again on what is the next steps related on that. But it is absolutely in pipeline. Episode 56 from Paula. He's not too angry on this one. So
concentrated. He's concentrated. He's discussing a serious topic of AAD token provider in SharePoint framework.
Yes. This is really good, really important topic, absolutely, to talk about how the access tokens actually work and how you're able to access the Microsoft Graph and any third-party APIs registered in Azure AD. So secured third-party APIs. That's definitely the how would I put it, the holy grail, like I've said so many times on the SharePoint Online. But yeah, good video on that one for 4.5 minutes, kind of a summary on how things actually work. And I think he's doing live demo here as well. So explaining how things are working, even in the level of the access token translation. So you can actually see, like in this case, let's see if we can actually pinpoint here. There's the access token. There is no scopes on this one, but basically how you can decode that and how you can able to then look inside of it and able to understand what the access token actually contains, right?
Yep.
I think at some point Vittorio though said that people shouldn't be paying too much attention on this stuff before when he was still in Microsoft, because we might actually change some of the access token internals at some point. So it's not about, you can actually have a look on inside of the access token, but it might actually be changed slightly in the future as well. So yeah. Depending on our interest, because we own Azure AD and the implementation. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
Good. Then here, Susan Hanley, good summary in the computer world around the Microsoft or the announcements on a SharePoint conference 2019. There's quite a few actually roadmap slides coming up as well, but Susan is raising here SharePoint home sites, which is an interesting, basically having a landing page, organizational landing page, so to say. Right now we start with having a one, and in future there might be multiple home sites in the SharePoint tenant. So
for those who don't know, what is a home site?
So basically it is intended to be your kind of an organizational landing page. So it's basically, it's intended to be the one URL which then companies can set as the default landing page within their browser, if that makes sense.
So would you say that is a hub of hubs?
You might call it a hub of hubs. It is a communication site which has been promoted to be a home site. So basically, then when you click SharePoint link anywhere in the tenant, you'll land on the home site if that has been configured. And there's a few other things there as well. So kind of behind of the scenes, there's happening some plumbing behind of that setting for the communication site. That the communication site is a home site, and therefore it will get certain capabilities. So
cool.
And that's do we have a good picture here? We do have
of course.
A picture, on that one as well. So that's kind of a Contoso portal mockup. I don't think this is a real site. I don't think so. It might be though. It looks pretty Okay, there's Microsoft Search in the top because that's now getting promoted on the suite level. Then here on the right side, we are able to see also vertical, horizontal, no, vertical
Section.
web part zone. Well, it's not a web part zone.
Section. Yes.
Section. Thank you. So you're able to then use section background colors, and these are horizontal zones, and that's a vertical zone. Actually, they're able to combine those together. So pretty cool setup.
This is cool, right? Like it only proves the point, like how far SharePoint came, where this is now available experience out of the box, whereas in the past, like this would require serious master page extending, page layouts.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Sue is also raising here the SharePoint start page. So this is basically your personalized experience. Then that's the organizational landing page, and then the start page is basically your personal, my recent documents, my let me actually zoom in. My featured links, my recent documents, my saved URLs. Oh, super close.
Right.
And then news sites and your personal sites, and there's like recent sites, suggested sites, and then following sites. So you're able to find.
How do you arrive to here?
I can't remember how it's actually intended to be related on which link and where. I would be now guessing if I do an exact journey. But there's the organizational landing page, and this is then your personal landing page. That's basically how it's intended to be. Which, by the way, it sounds quite similar as SharePoint.
What we had in Starter Kit, I thought exactly the same. Yeah, we had exactly the same 2 tabs, right? And then you could choose like which one you wanted to choose, where you wanted to land. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so. Who knows what has influenced what on these things? So it is what it is. So. SharePoint pages on steroids, so undo and redo web parts, ability to copy and duplicate web parts on a page, automatic URL address anchor links, tiles layout, recommendation news page, track and drop images on the page. So basically track and drop images on the page, and then poof, they will be visible there. Organizational by documents and page templates, really important thing as well. Right now, the page templates are basically site collection level, so it's functioning, but it's not super convenient, right? Because it's site collection level setting, and a lot of new web parts as the web part. Well, more and more web parts out of the box as well. And there's plenty of other stuff as well. So what we wanted to do quickly, let's actually spend a few minutes on this. So Suze also collected all of the roadmap slides, or took a screenshot of all of the roadmap slides. Which are from the sessions, and so actually pretty cool way of collecting what was announced in SPC across different areas. And in here, we concentrate on the SharePoint homepage and news scheduling, analytics feature, page API is in the pipeline as well. We talked about that one for quite a long time as well, though. Move modern site on the root, or to the root as well, which is cool.
So is that the site swap? Is that
that is a site swap, basically, yes. So you're able to swap any site collection to the root, or modern site collection to the root of your tenant, which is actually pretty cool. Which, by the way, makes perfect sense. When you think about it, you can modernize an existing root site from the root tenant, but many of our customers have already had their own whatever custom communication sites in a different URL. So they're basically raising their hand saying, yeah, but I would like to have this one in root. Yep, we got that. Yeah. That's the site swap capability then. Good. Let's see, what else do we have here? News scheduling, multilingual content publishing, required metadata support in pages, Fluent for SharePoint experiences. This relates on Fluent framework, which is the Fabric. Fabric UI is going to be adapting the Fluent framework, and that will then be more visible in the SharePoint Online as well.
Nice.
What else? Vertical columns, we actually talked about that one also already. Web part announcements, a lot of cool stuff there. Content services and insights. So this is relatively new team, which is now starting to push out more and more capabilities as well. Video verticals, video audio transcriptions, modern managed metadata field controls. Finally, getting some love, that one as well. improved enterprise content type publishing model. Sounds interesting.
So this is the content type hub.
Content improved enterprise content type.
So kind of the functional equivalent of it. It's not the same feature, but it's kind of equivalent, like what you want to achieve in the end.
You want to push out content types across the libraries in your channel, which makes perfect sense. So
yeah.
Cross Microsoft 365 tagging, so next generation taxonomy services in top of mind, really cool stuff in the pipeline as well. So things are moving, and obviously everybody would like to have all of this already available, but hey,
of course,
it will be coming. It will be coming. SharePoint team sites and business apps, really around the column formatting and number fields, column formatting improvement, hub join approval. So if you want to join your site collection to a hub, there might be an approval process on that, which is called additional column formatting, lightweight form customizations, which is actually an interesting statement. You might ask, what does that mean? And I have no idea. Lightweight form customization.
Well, what it says. You have a form and you want to change, like you can imagine this form.
And it's a lightweight.
Yeah, so it doesn't involve maybe development, but then it's just all guesses, right?
Yeah. I missed this session. I don't know exactly what that bullet point is actually meaning.
Also, then there's the interesting thing, right? So if it says Power Apps forms for
document libraries,
Oclipse, then so is that already seen as not lightweight, because then we need something else lightweight? Sure. Or is like Power Apps is already too complex and there's like something easier, maybe comparable to list formatting, column formatting, just change
and
one or two things. Yeah,
there's an ongoing interesting discussions obviously internally in our engineering as well, related on the Power Apps and Flow, which are absolutely brilliant functionalities, but then to be able to use them, you need to have an additional license, and that's actually then causing some headaches for some customers, and we need to make sure that the SharePoint works also without them, rather than always demanding Power Apps and Flow behind the scenes, right?
Right. So you don't want to be in a place where the only way to extend or change list form is through Power Apps. Oh, and by the way, in order to do it, you have to have a license.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have to have kind of like middle ground where you can do to some things, and if you want the more or advanced things, yes, for that you might need a license.
Exactly. Now, OneDrive for Business, not really my expertise, but a lot of stuff is happening there as well. Let's see, what do we have here? Popular around me, and this is really the data around the OneDrive files as well, and improvements in the OneDrive previews, document libraries.
So that is an interesting thing, because if you look at popular around me and save for later, that sounds a lot like Delve. Like we've had that in Delve for quite some time already.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then we get save for later is a good example. This doesn't just mean that this would work only in the OneDrive for Business site. Obviously, this means that it will be implemented in the document libraries in SharePoint as well, because OneDrive and SharePoint engineering is actually the same in engineering. And we use the exact same underlying storage system. So therefore, whatever we implement in here will be available across the SharePoint collaboration sites as well. So really cool.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. And then we go to designing our intranet, branding.
Branding. Nice.
New footer layouts, options, branded icons, fluent SharePoint experiences, updated theming designer, SharePoint home sites in mobile, hub, improvements, branding, page template organizational assets. A lot of good stuff. Absolutely. Good stuff. Additional extract site script actions. So the one thing what we actually showed in the SPC was how to extract site designs from a real site, an actual site. So you're able to actually extract the lists and columns and content by types in a site design script format from an existing site. The only kind of a downside, so site design script, absolutely brilliant functionality. It has still the kind of the challenge that it doesn't yet at least support packaging itself as a zip file or OpenXML file, because what I mean with that one is that when you extract stuff, if you're extracting also images potentially in future, like the logo,
Yes.
the site, and everything else, you have then multiple assets, which you need to make sure that they're contained in the same folder. Now, the PnP provisioning engine actually exports stuff optionally as a PnP file, which is an open XML file. So it has actually all of the assets inside of the file. So.
Yep.
Let's see where we go there. There's an interesting internal discussions on site script and site designs as well. Microsoft Search released to GA in build, so 2 weeks ago. Big announcements. Microsoft Search API in Graph coming or is available now. So you can absolutely already use that, which is really cool.
Interesting. I totally missed this announcement, so I will definitely give it a go, because that's something that I think since the very announcement of Graph, when it was called Office 365 Unified API, I think back in the days originally.
That sounds bad.
Well, I mean, it's the past, right?
It's descriptive though, so.
Well, it says exactly what it is, but I mean, I think that from the very first time that it was announced, I was like, okay, so search, and then you would say, like, okay, so everything that is posted to Graph has to be OData 4 compliant, and then you see search with all the different parameters and filters, and it's like, oh, how will that ever? Well, here
it is.
Yeah, here it is. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So and there will be absolutely additional improvements there as well. So making sure that the integration is working properly. There will be UI extensibility in plans. They are recruited a people. Well, actually, in the SP Dev Weekly a few weeks back, we talked.
We announced it, yes.
With Mikael Svensson, who's joining now the Microsoft Search team in Oslo.
Yep.
Who will be responsible of the UI extensibility model as well, designing the right model there. We had actually really interesting discussions related on that as well, kind of options and thinking what would be the right direction on there. Like we actually have already discussions related on PowerShell as well, which would be, okay, so what if engineering will provide APIs and then we will provide the UI's experiences will be completely open source using the community.
Exactly. I think that is the ultimate challenge when you build a product that is extensible, right? But because you don't want to do only the APIs, because customers who don't have capacity to build anything, well, they want to see something.
Yep.
But then you don't want to build too much, because what you build, well, you might not have the capacity across the board to keep that going, revving, keeping that up to date, and so forth and so on. So you have to kind of give or build all APIs and then give enough on the UI part with the ability for everybody else to extend and build on top of that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting balance, because
yes.
the partner ecosystem is super important for us, but then we don't want to kind of rock the boat too much, but then we need to provide native UIs as well and capabilities. So
yes.
It is an interesting balance. And I think, well, a few more. Advanced compliance. This is more on the administrative side of the story. Threaded chat review, classification assistant, legal stuff, data investigations, label analytics, GA, advanced e-discovery solution. Okay, cool. This is now from my slides from the dev keynote. So quick summary on things, smaller releases, Teams integration improvements, general availability of library components, Office settings in SharePoint framework, talked about that one already in the past, content security policy being implemented, CSM.NET Core, open sourcing Yeoman generator, which is an interesting discussion as well. What does it actually then mean for the SPFX PnP Yeoman generator? We'll see. Top of mind, actually.
I think there would be a clear.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear what's going to happen. But,
yeah.
Additional content extensions for modern pages. So this one, which we talked actually on Lucas and John's Nugen's session. I think it was on Wednesday afternoon, if I remember correctly. So we're introducing an additional extensibility for modern pages. So we're able to overwrite the footer. So the out-of-the-box content footer, you're able to replace that with your own implementation, not just the floating footer, but the actual content footer. You're able to also override the navigation, top navigation, which is pretty
nice.
So you're basically able to say, well, forget about out-of-the-box navigation, let me render my navigation. Or then you're able to actually provide navigation nodes. So you're able to override and basically say, hey, my extension is responsible for providing the navigation nodes, and then you're able to figure out where the nodes are coming by yourself. So,
which would then bring us back almost immediately to two APIs that aren't really that strong in REST, which is nav and MS.
True.
Because these are typically the two locations where you have nodes.
Yeah, that is so true. Absolutely. But yeah, so there's stuff is getting implemented. We talked about this in SBC. We'll probably talk about a lot of this stuff in the upcoming community calls as well. So on Thursday this week, we'll talk about SBC announcements as well, together with community. It is a public holiday, actually, this Thursday in Finland. But hey, what you wouldn't do for community? Hey, it is
Yes.
And Story and SPFX solutions still getting worked on. Unfortunately, don't have a timeline on that one. Developers and partners, public search API, we talked about that one. Connectors, this is actually search.
Search connector, yeah.
Roadmap for learning pathways, so learning path formerly known as customer learning. So there's going to be multilingual support for that one. This is basically for driving adaption in the Office 365. It's a really cool solution, which is using the provisioning service to get itself provisioned, and then it helps to drive adaption of the Office 365. So
nice.
Really
nice.
And then the super important note, roadmap for InfoPath and SharePoint Designer. There is no roadmap.
Well, the roadmap is exit plan. You have to have an exit plan.
Exactly. You need to have an exit plan. So, but to be fair, I think the number one question related on SharePoint Designer is that but what would I then use for creating workflows? And the answer is flow. And
well, so the interesting thing is that if you look at that, so from what I hear from discussions that we have with customers is that it's not as much as the where, because you can think of it, okay, so SharePoint Designer workflow, that's flow or logic apps, and then InfoPath, that would be power apps. So that the target is clear. The way there, however, is not, because both are being put. So except the logic apps, flows and power apps are very much makers tools.
Yeah.
And as such, right now, there's no way to automate that. There's no way to do things like automate connections or automate deployment or automate things. So if you think about company-wide set of forms and workflows, there's no easy way to move from one to another, like we, for example, can do with the portal experiences. We have tooling available that allows us to assess and modernize them.
Yeah.
We don't have tooling for that. But there's also no APIs that would allow us to build tooling.
Sure.
We can identify what we have. We can assess complexity of that. Then what?
Yeah.
And then we can create flows and power apps, but we cannot get them to flows and power apps.
And I think there's and we know about this one, and I think there's how would I put this in a
diplomatic way?
Diplomatically. So there's obviously flow and power apps are part of a completely different organization than even the whole Office 365. So it's part of the Azure. It's part of the Dynamics organization, or Azure under the Azure. And those people, we in the SharePoint side, we worked with enterprises for more than a decade already. So we know kind of the requirements. We came from the on-premises with farm solution with massive set of APIs and opportunities, and then we're now kind of exposing additional capabilities in SharePoint Online in more, let's say, restricted way in certain level, but in a safe way as well. But all the time looking in this from an enterprise perspective, not just from a maker's perspective. And I think that's really the difference here. So the Flow and Power Apps organization, they are getting that feedback and they're looking into that, absolutely. And they will more and more adjust their behavior to be on the enterprise direction. But they basically came from the maker side.
Right.
So they built end-user capabilities and end-user-driven operations rather than making sure that the enterprise coordination is available. So.
And I think the great thing that they already have, like they have interest. People are genuinely interested in using that, in adopting that.
Yeah.
But they cannot just forget everything they have and just drop all of that. And it's like, you know what? Tomorrow we're gonna build everything from scratch in Power Apps and Flow, because that is not that's not how things work. There are years of investments in tooling, in guidance, documentation, processes that depend on these forms and workflows.
Sure.
And you cannot just drop them and say, you know what, the company will stop for half a year until we rebuild everything from scratch.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like the minimal viable product for companies as well. They need to gradually adjust the new ways of doing and piloting first and then adjusting and all of that. But I think the momentum is there. Absolutely. There's
absolutely.
Because the tooling is really great. Absolutely, the Power Apps and the Flow momentum is growing. Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's like even the other day, and it took me a while to wrap my head around it to see it that way. But the other day, I realized, like, I had a list of things in plain text that I wanted to have in Planner.
Yeah.
And it was like 30 odd things. So I mean, it wouldn't be a massive amount of time to do it, but like, why not create a flow for that? And I was able to create a Planner task from a number of lines of text with Flow. And at that moment, it was this part like, you know what? Flow is actually my macros for Office 365.
Or Microsoft 365 even.
Yes, exactly. Like for the Microsoft Cloud even, because with that, you can even do things in Azure.
Yep.
And you can, if you have the connectors, you can reach out to that beyond even that. So you could be thinking about like where there is the automation inside Office clients, like you can do the macros or scripts. Like these are the macros on the web in your company Flow.
Absolutely.
You can really do really powerful things.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah.
Cool. We chatted again for quite a few times, but it's fine. I'm going to end actually this with you can see that. So we got everybody in the pre-day. The BNB people have now a PHP shirt, and everybody has something written on the back. Can you see that?
If you can stand up. The father. What? No.
What did you say?
The father.
No, it doesn't.
No. How would you know?
Now I need to go and check it out. I'll be back. No. Okay. Cool. I need to go back on the conference center, which isn't too far, which is good. It's too bad that you were unable to join. These things do happen. Yeah. But we'll catch up. Well, this is almost like spending time on the same room anyway. So this is how it works. But yeah, so we'll definitely meet you later on, and we'll keep on meeting up on the video side anyway. For those who are watching, thank you for watching additional one again. Hopefully you find this interesting, and please get a feedback, and please use the SB Dev Weekly hashtag for tagging your articles as well, so we know what is getting released. So we're able to talk about those things.
Yeah, and then probably next week we will talk a little about your experiences about ECS, like what you've heard, what you've learned. Sure. Germany versus the rest of the world. Are they still on premises, or do they move, and kind of things like that? I can imagine. I would be curious about that. Yeah,
that's interesting to see the US and Germany and in a 2 weeks time frame. It's interesting. We'll talk about that one next time, because otherwise the recording will be way too long.
Exactly.
Thank you, Waldek, for this one, and thank you everybody for watching. Bye-bye.
See you next week.